Hello and welcome to the Browns Blitz. Today is Saturday, March 28th. This is episode number 340. I'm your host, Rod Bloom. I'm here with my brother, Jeff, and our guest, Ken Carman. You can find Ken at 92.3 The Fan, Fox 8 News, and sometimes at your Cleveland Browns. Ken, thanks for joining us on a Saturday. We appreciate you taking the time, and it's great to have you.
It's wonderful to speak with you guys. Thank you so much for having me here today. I'm glad you guys were able to make time for me on a Saturday morning. I know that I feel bad because there's a lot of people that are like, hey, we do it at like 6:30 at night on like a Thursday or a Friday. I'm like, I usually work, so the weekdays are a little tough. So I'm glad you guys were able to make some time for me. I appreciate it.
Well, I'll be honest, Ken, I don't do my best work in the morning, but I'm going to try to keep up.
Well, I don't either, so that's part of the fun. So I'm much more clear-headed in the afternoon, and there's been many times where I've sat there in the afternoon going, I said that at 6:30 a.m. Yeah, okay, all right, I guess I got to back that up. I didn't realize I was saying all that.
Yeah. We may have a few more cobwebs than usual this morning, Ken, but we'll get through it here. So hey, I wanted to start with something. I'm going all the way back to when you were on the show last July. I listened just to see if we kind of left any loose ends, and there really wasn't a whole heck of a lot. But we talked a lot about the identity of that team, going into last year or so. I'm kind of just wondering if you think we'll have a better picture of this team's identity when we get down to that initial 53 going into this season than we did last season.
Well, I think that's a great question because I hate to say it now. I couch everything with like, hey, man, I like Kevin. I like Kevin personally. But, criticism is criticism, and it's all true. And, I mean, that's part of the reason he makes, life-changing money is so we can criticize him. I didn't think I don't believe I thought that they had much of an identity last year in July. I mean, if you go back and check that, I can't imagine. I said maybe defense, maybe because I mean everything's kind of up in limbo. As far as what they're going to be, I mean, defense is the call to order for this football team throughout the entire year. But I think now they have a better chance to establish an identity. Because I did think in so many ways Kevin just kind of managed what was handed to him. I think now with Todd Monken, you're looking at a 60-year-old head coach, and I'm not an ageist by any means, but I say that age to accentuate like, hey man, this is his only chance, not his last, his only chance probably to be a head coach in the NFL. And I think if I were Todd Monken and knowing him very, very little from the 2019 season. I did not see much of him during 2019 in the hallways. Some of that was probably by design because as we knew throughout the rest of the year, he was pretty agitated with the way things were going. I think if I were him, I'd be damned if I let anything get out of my way of power. And any power that's his, I think that he should wield that. So I think that we will have a much more structured foundation in 2026 than what we had in 2025. Now, that might not mean very many more wins. I think it will mean more than 5. But I think that we should have a much more structured foundation for this football team now and into the future. So Ken, as far as our identity, I would say defense. I'm sorry, because I didn't answer the question. I'm just thinking about organization and stuff. As far as identity, I think it's defense. I think it's Miles. I think it's defense. I think it's trying to play complementary football, winning on the margins. And I think that as we try to grow with whoever plays quarterback, I think that there's going to be a lot of what they would try to do is score as many as they can, but honestly, eliminate turnovers as best they can, take their shots as best they can, and there might be a lot of 20 to 17 games that you're hoping to win because of their schedule. I mean, they're going to be playing a lot of teams that struggled last year too.
So Ken, you're looking at a couple of 60-plus-year-old podcasters here, so we're not getting a lot more chances either.
I have a few days, Jeff.
But I speak for myself. Offensively, do you think we see more carryover on the offensive philosophy, like we're expecting to on the defensive philosophy? I mean, they're sort of out there telling us that not much is going to change on defense, right? But are we still going to be looking at a similar kind of an offense this year?
I think so. I don't want to start writing checks that I can't cash about this offense, because I think a lot more people are bullish about the offense than I am. I really, it annoys me how little people if I'm bothered by anything with a general fan, I'm bothered by how little attention is paid to the offensive line, and just the thought that because we have 4 new offensive linemen and we have George Warhop, that this is going to be taken care of like that. George Warhop has a sterling reputation with his players, but it's weird because when you look at some of the stuff that you find on the internet, and it's all subjective. I know people bring up their stats, but when you look at some of the advanced analytics, some of the advanced stats, we could say numbers is numbers, but they're based on subjective reasoning. And I think offensive line is the example of a suggested of a subjective thought. So a lot of his offensive lines, like one of the major issues, because a lot of people thought he was going to be the offensive line coach, I think, of the Giants before he came to the Cleveland Browns. And a lot of fans I saw were highlighting before he was hired by the Browns of where his offensive line was his last year in a place and where it was after. And according to PFF, they were always ranked much higher. But again, that's a subjective thing. I want to go with the players because he's the offensive line coach of the Browns, and I can't find a player to really say anything bad about the guy. He's well respected, well regarded by the players. I think that's obviously a big deal, because I have seen in just the last 5 years, guys, I have seen the pinnacle of offensive line coaching in Bill Callahan, and then I've seen the absolute bottom. Andy Dickerson was not ready to be an offensive line coach, a head offensive line coach. He was disorganized. Clearly, you saw that with the evidence of what we heard at the end of the year, where his assistant ended up basically taking over. Then Mike Vrabel ended up taking over the offensive line stuff as a consultant. I mean, that's how bad the offensive line coaching was in that one season. So now that we've kind of got back to basics, and I thought that their last offensive line coach was good, and Mike Bloomgren. I think that this guy is going to be hopefully as good or better in George Warhop. But I still worry about the offensive line, because free agents are usually free agents for a reason, with the exception of in Trent Williams was traded for technically, but with the exception of Trent Williams, I think with the exception of Tyler Linderbaum, who just got signed by the Raiders. I mean, you saw the market they set there. And I think that part of the reason, people go, well, Ken, you can get a Tyler Linderbaum. I go, no, you can't. And look at the market that he had. They knew the Raiders are a crazy organization. I know that. But the Raiders knew how rare it is for a guy of that stature to be a free agent. So they had to go way above and beyond and pay him an absurd number to be able to get him. That's how important offensive line are, and that's how rare a free agent offense, a really elite free agent offensive lineman is. So I'm hoping that in a short amount of time, he can get these guys together. Hopefully Andrew Berry does well with the draft. We can replenish that, but that's in a 2 to 3 year window. As of right now, your wide receiver group is still Jerry Jeudy, who I'm hoping this year will be different. Year one was good. Last year it was a malcontent. I hope that this year changes. I hope that Isaiah Bond can run more than a go route in 2026. Harold Fannin Jr. is obviously, I think he's been worth his weight in gold as a third-round tight end. I think he was way better than any of us would have imagined. He was sterling this last season.
Yep.
Now you have to find the threat of who he can throw to other than Harold Fannin, because you saw a lot of stuff. Coach Lance Reisland brought this up with us, where you saw a lot of stuff where my question to him was, hey, I'm trying to find an answer here, because a lot of people are asking me, they go, why is the running game better with Dylan Sampson than it was Quinshon Judkins? Why is that? And his answer was, well, Kenny, look at the box. All you got to do is look at the line of scrimmage. I mean, you have 8 at the line of scrimmage, 9 at the line of scrimmage with number 10s in the game. They know who's getting the football. Now, when you had 22 back there, they knew they'd have to spread it around, because you can't put that workload on Dylan Sampson the way that you put the workload on Quinshon Judkins. So now they have to find somebody who keeps a defense honest. That's why I really do think they're going to go wide receiver at number 6 overall. Just the more I talk about it, the more it feels like, hey, they might feel a little bit more better about their offensive line than we do. I mean, they paid these guys a lot of money. So they're going to try to find somebody to keep a defense honest. That is a weapon, but also opens things up for their running game. And hopefully, if we're going into the season with Shedeur, I think we are, hopefully make Shedeur a little bit more comfortable in the offense and things can start to click. So I think it'll be a little bit better, but I can't expect a night and day difference. It'd be nice, but I'm going to play it close to the vest when it comes to the offensive output in 2026.
Well, you're preaching to the choir here, Ken, about taking a receiver high.
Yeah.
I just want to go back to the offensive line for a second because, like you, I'm very concerned. We know that the offensive line is going to be younger. How long is it going to take for this offensive line to get better?
Because you're bringing in veterans and free agents, it might not. It might not. You got guys who are in their late 20s coming in, and I think that if it's gonna click, it's gonna click, and they're gonna be a good offensive line, and we're gonna love George Warhop almost as much as we love Bill Callahan in this town. But if it doesn't, Andrew Berry's gonna get a lot of heat. I mean, you replace 4/5 of the offensive line with free agents. We rarely see this, if ever. I don't think I've ever seen it in my lifetime. I certainly don't think I've seen it in the NFL covering this game. I think the last time, I think it was 5 for 5. They said it was, I want to say 1974 or 73, somewhere in the 70s there. And I kind of want to say it was the expansion Tampa Bay Buccaneers, but I'm not sure. Don't quote me on that. Yeah. If it does come to cohesion, I think that we have to be ready for I want to see who that opponent is week one. I think we have to be ready for a bit of a sloppy offensive performance week one. And because schedules are longer now, because NFL seasons are longer now, it used to be, hey, man, week one, wild card, a lot of sloppy football, a lot of guys who haven't played in the preseason, now they're playing. They lose their win in the fourth quarter. Anything can happen. I think because they've expanded the seasons now, you're looking at and they've shortened the preseason, and guys aren't playing 2 and 3 weeks into the season. So the first month, I think I'm going to get a lot of nasty phone calls on Monday mornings about this offensive line. And I'm hoping over time we can be patient and it can grow, as long as they stay healthy, can grow into a decent offensive line. My goal is something in top 10 would be amazing. Top 10 would be amazing for this offensive line. Somewhere between, honestly, 15 and 20. I'm looking to think. I think that would be a nice step forward and make me feel better about a lot of these free agents
at the end of the season, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah. So, look, I've described this offensive line group as a bridge offensive line.
Yeah.
Right. We're trying to get to 29 with these guys, right? Mm-hmm. And not necessarily play much of many of them then. I think, right. So when you look at really building this line correctly and plugging in pieces that you can grow with long term, what do you think needs to happen next? Do you think we need to be developing guys that have a little bit longer arc, right? Or are we looking for guys who can play sooner rather than later? Young guys, I mean.
Fans are always looking for guys who can play sooner rather than later. My boss, Keith Britton, brought up last week, Saturday, so he brought it up last week when I was hosting with Daryl. He goes, what's stopping them from drafting 2 wide receivers in the first round? And I'm like, honestly, nothing. Honestly, nothing. It's a controversial take. I think he wants one of us to have the take so we can say it on the air and see if we can defend it and things like that. He's a master manipulator, and he plays me like I'm just on strings here, man. I mean, he really does. He's very good at it. But when I think about it, logically, nothing's stopping them. Because if you say you take Carnell Tate at number 6, you're sitting there at 24, and the medicals with Jordan Tyson have scared some people away. Maybe you take a shot at that guy, knowing that the top end of that, a guy like that, if he did not have the medicals, I think he'd be the number 1 wide receiver. If you find that guy at 24, it's going to be hard to pass on that guy. But if you take an offensive lineman at 24, people are going to want to see him start week 1.
Yeah.
And
not doing it.
I'm not sure for your needs. You need everything, but I'm not sure for your needs how many guys I know are going to be able to start week one in the positions you would like to put him in. Spencer Fano, CC Mauanoa, they can start week one. Venga Ioane from Penn State, I think he could start week one. But I mean, you're talking about a guard there. I think Caden Proctor can be really, really good. His pro day, scouts were raving. We were getting texts. They were loving him. But one, he's an Alabama offensive lineman. I can argue all day long going, hey, man, I didn't think much of Texas Tech quarterbacks until Patrick Mahomes came out. Like, I don't know if we can judge where guys came from, but he's an Alabama offensive lineman. That's a tough sell to the fan base, okay? Because especially the last offensive lineman we took from Alabama wasn't very good. Historically, they are not very great. Chris Samuels is taken out of Alabama. He was great. John Hanna's a legend. There's not that Dwight Stevenson, but there's not that many great Alabama offensive linemen. The other part of it is that when I say 6'7", 350, that's huge. When I say 815-pound squat, that's exciting. But when I say sloppy feet, when I say I think that he gets a little confused in the run game, especially in zone scheme, seeing him and he's kind of looking around and stuff like that. He's a tremendous athlete, but we're talking about a guy who's going to have to bump up the work ethic to get himself going. And I don't still know. At 24, I think he'd be worth it. At 6, I don't. And I think that they might look at a guy and go, okay, can we take a guy whose work ethic is going to be maybe better, that we know is going to be a really solid player for us in 27 and 28? Can we do that at pick 39? And because in the first round, you're still trying to get guys who can start week one. At pick 39, maybe it's a little easier. Because I do think there's depth with this draft on the offensive line. I just don't know how many guys I'd be comfortable with starting week one. But I look at some of this stuff, and I'll talk your ears off about these guys because I got my notes in front of me. Kid Blake Miller out of Strongsville, shooting fish in a barrel. He's from Strongsville with the Clemson. There's a lot of high character guy with him. Like he's a good character player. I wrote great attitude, great length. Feet, he cheats a little bit. He lunges a little bit. There's a little bit there, but I think that over time he could become a really good football player. A guy like Chase Basantis could maybe be a day 2 type of guy, night 2 type of guy. But I think that I think he's got short arms. I have to get my notes back out. But I think that he could be a really good football player for you, but you're talking guard there. So I want to see what they do really Friday night of the draft on the 24th of April and how they want to go about this. And I will feel much better about their offensive line maybe after that. Because after that, you guys know, day 3, you'd love to get a diamond.
It's all a crapshoot.
It's a crapshoot,
yeah. So, we're going to have some of the so-called draft experts on over the next few weeks. And guys that really do know their stuff about these players, right?
Yeah.
A lot more than I do. But one of the questions I'm going to ask them to do is to quantify for me the difference between Caden Proctor and Markel Bell. You're looking at first round versus potentially 5th or 6th round, right? Mm-hmm. They both have some growing to do in my mind, right? So neither one of them is stepping in day 1 in my mind.
No, I just think that people look at a guy like I do. I look at a guy like Caden Proctor, and I just see this canvas of this mountain of what could be. Mm-hmm. I still appreciate size, and I get so let down. If a guy who has that type of size doesn't do everything he can to maximize that size.
Take advantage of it.
Yeah. And I think with an old school guy like George Warhop, I felt we were robbed from DeJuan Jones last year with that injury. They tried to move him over left tackle. You should have seen him. He was giddy at right tackle because he is still a guy. To me, DeJuan, I love him as a person. I think he's a great kid. I've always had great conversations with him. We've always been great in the hallway. I root for him, but I know that I think in my heart, I think that he was a basketball player first. And when you take basketball first and try to equate that to the offensive line, if you have a quarterback who can throw it all over the place, if you got an Allen, if you got a Mahomes, if you got veterans around him that are sturdy, and he's in pass pro because of his feet, he can be better. But in run game, it becomes a little tough. And then when you add in, hey, how to take care of yourself. And I know this is coming from me, so I'm not being very critical. I try not to be very critical about that sort of thing. Well, I mean, when you look like the Michelin Man, it's really hard to sit there and people's bodies. But how do you take care of yourself when it is your job? How do you take care of yourself to make yourself the right type of lean? Are you? Yeah. The secrets are all out there. You got guys like Jared Veldier who are all over Instagram. They do a tremendous job about how to take care of your body as an offensive lineman, how to keep that weight on. Obviously, Joe is the gold standard. His workout regimen is insane, and it was insane when he was playing and keeping the weight on. How are you going to do that? And that issue, when people hear about weight problems with an offensive lineman, they get terrified, and rightfully so, because you don't just want to take some guy who's going to be a slug. These guys got to move like cats. I mean, you got these guys going out in zone schemes, and they got to be able to go like Wyatt Teller. What made Wyatt Teller great is Wyatt was way more athletic than anybody thought. And you could see that on kickout blocks, not just on the highlights when he's mashing Jesse Bates, but on any play, just getting an arm on somebody, getting an arm on a shoulder pad, opening up a lane for Nick Chubb, opening up something for somebody to get an extra 4 yards. Or when you have a really great running back, a 5-yard gain turns into a 35-yard gain. That type of thing, that type of quickness to get out and just put a body on a body is underrated. But you need guys to be able to get to that spot, because what makes football so great, I get excited talking about this sort of thing, is I always tell people, like, we got a lot of like, even when I coach the little kids, and anytime I talk to any high school football coaches, it's all the same. It's all the same. I could have guys in a weight room and their names could be up on the board, and you could have a 17-year-old kid and he's benching 435, and you could have a high school kid and he's squatting 585, and he can look like he can move a Mack truck. But if them feet can't move, it doesn't matter, because it's always going to be a game. I don't care how strong you are. If I beat you to the spot, I win.
Yeah.
If we get there, I win. And so I got to have, and this is what scares me a bit about Caden, is I got to have feet. I got to have quickness to get there. Now, we've seen flashes of it because they've used him out of the backfield. I mean, you got a 6'7" guy they're throwing tunnel screens to in red zone. I mean, that's some scary stuff coming at you right down the line there. If you have that type of guy who you can get his feet in line, you could have a really great football player on your hands. But if he doesn't, if you don't have the right support staff, it just turns into a mess. It turns into a what if, and it turns into another thing that people call in and yell about. And I say, yep, you're right. Bob, you're right. I totally agree with you. Thank you very much for the call, because I do agree with him, because it's obscene. It's borderline offensive to see a person who has that much talent and your line coach, your coaching staff can't bring it out of them.
Yeah. Okay, I want one more quick one, Ken, and then I want to give Rod a chance to talk. So, give me a percentage. Chances that the top four, I'm just going to go with the top 4 picks, okay? Because like you said, I don't think the rest of them matter all that much, but the top 4 picks in the draft this year, give me a percentage chance that they're going to make as much or more of a contribution as the top 4 picks in last year's draft.
Okay. Well, you're going to have Fernando Mendoza. He's going to start week 1. I do think he's going to be.
No. I mean, our top 4. Our top round.
God.
Yeah.
Oh, God.
Sorry.
Okay.
Let me clarify.
All right. I mean,
we did pretty well in the draft last year, right?
A rare draft, man. I mean, usually a good draft.
Plus, we had spots to play those guys.
Yeah, I mean, really a really good draft. Like, I think the number's 30% of those guys who get quality starts in a season. That's a really, really, really good draft. Andrew knocked it out of the park last year. That's why he's still here. He knocked it out of the park last season with that draft. His staff, they did a hell of a job. Credit where it's due, because there's not a lot of things we can give him credit for. The chances of that happening again, it's just low. Because if I'm talking 30%, that's a good draft. It has to be lower than 30%, doesn't it? So, quality, looking good. I want it to be 30%. I'd have to look 10, 15% somewhere in there. I mean, it's a tough league still. There's a lot of talent that you still have to play. It's just going to be very, very, very tough to find that group 2 years in a row to be able to contribute to this football team the way they did, the way that they did.
That's kind of where we set the bar for Andrew Berry to keep his job, though, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, if he does it again, if he does it again with this draft, he's going to be here next year. And some people might be worried about that because he can knock it out of the park with the draft. They could win 6-7 games and they could still be like, yeah, we're moving on from Shedeur. I mean, that's definitely a possibility. This team is obsessed with finding the quarterback, not a quarterback. And they don't always go about it the right way. And they could always move on from it, but they could find themselves in a better spot. And now I'm going to have to talk to fans and ask them on my show, are you comfortable with Andrew making that pick? Now, if they have 2 years of really great drafting, it helps. If they had to make a pick this year, I think fans would be terrified. I think fans would be nervous. They're nervous already at pick 6 and pick 24 with the other positions. But if we had to pick a quarterback right now, I think a lot of Browns fans would be staying up late at night. I think it'd be a lot of quick nights for a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
And that's really where I was going, Ken. Is what are the expectations this season for Andrew Berry and Todd Monken, and how that ties into getting to 29 in the Dome? We talked a little bit about it last year. I don't think any of us really expected them to hire a 60-year-old coach. I think that we thought if there would be a change, that they'd bring in somebody young and to kind of get them to the Dome and that. So just kind of curious what you think. What you think that path looks like.
It made sense when you think about it. I didn't expect him to either. I agree with you. Real quick on Todd. It made sense because I think that they were looking for at that spot, I think they were looking for credibility. I think defensively, there were a lot of guys who just did not trust Kevin and did not like this offense, did not like how they were constantly being called up off the bench on a quick 3-and-out, constantly called up off the bench off of turnovers. I think there was a lot of resentment there. And things change. Again, I can like Kevin all I want, but I know what I know. I think they wanted some credibility. This is a guy who knows the language, who's been around it, who has coached greats, has coached bad players and made them better in college. Knows what it's like to build a program in college, knows what it's like to be at the tippy top in college and pro, and a guy who knows how to talk their language and how to get their respect. And probably already comes in with their respect. That's what I think Todd brings. There's a gravitas there that I can be as excited as I want about Nate Shieldhouse. He may have it someday, and we may look at this as foolish that they didn't hire him, much like the Sean McVay stuff when he was 30 and got the job with the Rams. But this is the way this goes. We're in a different spot than what the Rams were. And you needed a great support staff. That's why I'll always pray at the altar of Wade Phillips in that. I thought that he showed as an assistant coach just how great of a football coach he was in those early years with the Rams. That all pointed out the expectations for this year. I kind of go with a lot of what Daryl says. Now, I'm not going to go as far as what Daryl said, where he's like, "Hey, man, I can guarantee him 2 years, and then maybe he's gone by the Dome." I think maybe Daryl might want that one back. Maybe put the cart before the horse there a little bit. But what Todd's job is year one, I agree with Daryl. Todd's job year one is to take a 5-win team and make it a 7-8 win team. Win those games that people are upset that we didn't win this last year. Where's our attention to detail? What I got upset, everybody gets upset about getting blown out. We got blown out a bunch last year, way more than what an NFL team should. I think we had 5 blowouts last year. But what really pisses you off is that game against Tennessee, that game against New York, the Jets. When you're getting beat on special teams, you're getting beat on attention to detail, and you're getting beat. That is a loss that you had during the week. That's not a loss that you had on Sunday. Like, I'm mad about it now. It's March, and I'm getting mad about this now because that's a game you lose on. That's a game you lose on install day. Yeah. That's my problem with it. And that's why I had such a problem with Bubba Ventrone going, "Hey, everybody's saying this stuff. Okay, is this just agents saying this stuff about this guy?" And then when he's talking about the talent, he has to go, No, that's ridiculous to me. And I know what he's saying because of Andrew. But when you had that, I think that dog ain't going to hunt because Tennessee ain't very good and the Jets ain't very good. And they beat you on special teams, both them games. So they outcoached you both them games. And one of them damn games, if I'm not mistaken, was with an interim staff or an interim head coach with the Tennessee Titans. I mean, that's unforgivable. That's unforgivable. And that's why these guys aren't here anymore. I think that those are the games that really set that off. So Todd's job is to be organized. Todd's job is to get these guys going. Most importantly, organized. Most importantly, organized week to week with his staff, making sure the attention to details there. There's going to be mistakes. It's a human game. And when you have a lot of humans on the field, there's going to be a lot of mistakes that happen at time. How do you fix those mistakes? It's what I hate about it is that a lot of us just think after they kick off week one, that's it. It's like, no, man, there's things that you can't do a whole lot of instruction because you're getting ready for the next game. But there's things we can do to make ourselves better. There is still growth on a rookie on a football team from week 1 to week 18. And we lose focus of that because we're paying attention to quarterbacks, we're paying attention to wide receivers, things like that. So I want to see growth out of this coming year. But ultimately, scoreboard is what counts. You take a 5-win team, make it an 8-win team. If we're having a serious conversation about whether or not we want to stick with Shedeur or go with somebody else, because if you're an 8-win team, you're drafting in the middle of the draft. Okay? You're not getting that first overall pick. You ain't getting Arch Manning. I know what they're doing about the rules and all that stuff. I think they probably would try to go after him because it's the Browns and they love their quarterbacks, and so do the rest of us. Yeah. But you ain't getting him. And so now you have to pivot on what you want to do. I think that this year is going to be a good year for Todd Monken because the expectations are low. I think that he'll win more games than what we expect him to win. I think that they can win 7-8 games now. I think that his real challenge is going to be in 2027. He might have a rookie QB. He might have another year of Shedeur. So what's going to ultimately happen here? And that's my expectations for him this year. He's hired to get this off the mat, and I think he can do that.
Yeah. Well, thanks so much, Ken.
That's it.
Well, we had you now for a half hour.
Can I do 10 minutes more, or is that it?
Sure, absolutely.
Give me 10 minutes. I got to go 10:45 because I got to step out here.
Just another question.
Yeah, my wife and the neighbor are going shopping. I haven't heard their footsteps yet.
Okay.
So I got 10
for 30 minutes. Yeah.
Yeah, give me 10
we'll
more.
Talk all day if you want to.
Yeah, I'm getting excited. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Jeff, did you want to go with your question?
Well, I'm really reluctant to launch into this, but because I'm probably as sick of this topic as you are, Ken. But there is in my mind right now an effort to rehabilitate Deshaun Watson, not physically, right, but in the perception of the fan base as the starting quarterback. And my question is part of the reason that Todd Monken is here is because he answered that question correctly in the interview process, and some of those other guys didn't.
So I'm going to sound like Kevin. I understand your question. They are, hey, man, I know that this is a double-edged sword. You know, people want a fan base wants an organization to pay attention to them when things are bad. And then we love to say, I don't want the owner to care what the fans think. Well, that's usually easy when the team's better. Right. I just think they know what I think they know what's in front of them. I think that they knew this is going to turn into a real long answer. I'm sorry. I know I've been long-winded about a lot of this stuff, but I get excited talking about. I got excited talking about this. This is obviously
why we love you, Ken.
This is obviously a delicate situation here, Jeff. So they understand the fan sentiment. Again, I was not too terribly far away from the owners the day that he got hurt. And I will take it to my grave that it was not the type of reaction that the television made it out to be, that the internet made it out to be from the fan base. However, I ain't denying there was a reaction. I'm not denying that the people I was with, I'm kind of slouching down because I'm going, oh my God, he's actually really hurt. And they go, what? I go, you need to look up at the TV. He's really hurt. And then when the TV showed the replay in the stadium, it was oh God, this is really bad. And there are some people who were happy. There's no doubt about that. They're cognizant of that. They know that the fan base don't like them. And I think that asked off mic, I don't know this to be a fact. I feel that he doesn't like it here. He doesn't want to be here. He only came here for money. I think he thought it was going to be a lot easier. I think he thought he was going to play a lot more than he did in 2022. And it's turned into a complete mess. And I think part of this is that he was in a headspace that's in a really bad headspace. He's in a place he doesn't like to be. Nobody here likes him. Everybody looks at him as a reason why we're failures, why we're wasting this talent. They're mad at him. They don't want to see him. They know that. I don't think they want to play him. But they also understand that he's making $46 million. They're not high enough in the draft, okay? And there's not a great quarterback to take. They made their decision on Deshaun Watson going at 137 miles an hour. And it cost him dearly. And I think they did look at this season and went, let's not make the same mistake. Malik Willis, there's some good things there. There's some not so good things there. We don't know. Okay. He wasn't going to consider you, though. Kyler wasn't considering you. Tua wasn't considering you. Any of these other ones ain't worth trading for. You know, Mac Jones is out there. Who's the head coach? Who's the guy who's in charge of everything out there? It's Kyle Shanahan. He hates you. So that's going to be difficult to make. So they look at their go and they go, you know what? Regardless, we're stuck. And the fans can be as angry as they want to be. They can fight each other as much as they want to on the internet. I don't think that this is real in real life. I do a lot of traveling around Northeast Ohio. I get the honor and pleasure, and I mean that sincerely, of meeting a lot of people who are Browns fans. And I don't think it's like that with Shador, with a general Browns fan who doesn't spend a lot of time on Twitter. I think they're like, hey, let's see what he has. And if he doesn't, fine, throw another log on the fire, whatever. Mm-hmm. I think they know that, but they also know that, hey, he's got some things he's got to work out, and we can't just leave him out there if he's just terrible. Because I don't think that they trust Dylan Gabriel. I think Dylan Gabriel will probably get traded for a very late round pick during training camp. And I think that they will go with Shador, and I think they want to go with Shador, but they have to be ready to break that glass just in case they have to play Deshaun Watson. Because Tatis, again, this is his only chance he's going to get. Right. He will get another chance. So if they go to OTAs, I'll tell you right now, Shador's doing everything right this offseason. He's in Berea. He's with these coaches. It is not just some sort of campaign. It's not like he's running for Congress here. I mean, I know he's working his ass off. I know it. I feel it in my heart. I know it. I see it. I get the text. Damn it, I'm as sure of it as I can be. But Deshaun Watson's working out too. Now, Deshaun Watson isn't in the facility, but we know he's working out too. Regardless of that, Tom Monken's going to have to make a decision after OTAs what's going to be best for his football team. And he can't afford in his life to care how uncomfortable I am with Deshaun Watson playing week 1. He can't afford to care about how upset the guys in section 537 are. He can't afford to do it. He's got to go. Because he only owes one thing to one group of people, and that's his team. And so he's going to play the best player. And so that's why I think that we're kind of – I don't think you can rehab an image like that without going out and playing well and winning. But I think that that's why we're kind of putting out a runway for him to possibly play in 2026. It's not – I don't think it's something that anybody wants. I think Deshaun might want it, but I don't think the Browns want him to play. I don't think the fans certainly don't, at least the vast majority. I think they'd rather see Shador or they'd rather see somebody else. But, this is the situation that they're in, and right. they're going to make the most of it.
Yeah. You have time for one quickie here, Ken?
Go ahead.
I want to ask you Jeremy's question, because Jeremy helps us out a lot on the show, and he is a huge Caleb Downs fan. So if Tate's not there and Caleb Downs is, how do you feel about that?
So there's 2 big rules that are supposed to be a big deal to everybody in a draft. Is when it comes to the top 10, stay away from safety, stay away from guards. All right? Well, let me pull out my safeties here. Let me go through my notes. I got my notes right here.
Ken's prepared.
You go from Caleb Downs to the kid out of I almost said Purdue. That's where he transfers from, Oregon.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And listen, he's a good player.
Mm-hmm.
How far down are you going to go? Because if you sign him, the price on him is cheap. Safeties are not that expensive, so I don't want to put. He's got to play well at first for us to talk about second contract. But you're thinking about that when you're taking a guy top 10.
Mm-hmm.
I think that if it came down to Caleb Downs, I mean, they already have Ronnie Hickman that they've tendered. I mean, that's a second-round tender for crying out loud, so they do think that he's pretty good. They got Grant. Grant is, just fantastic within this defense. I love Grant Delpit. I know that we've had jokes about that on the show. If Caleb is there, I think they're going to start hitting the phones and seeing who wants to move up. Yeah. If that's the best player that's there, I think they're going to start hitting the phones. If not, do they overdraft? Do they draft Mekhi Lemon? If Spencer Fano is there, does it change their? I mean, they're going through these scenarios right now. We're a month away from the draft, guys. Like they're going through it all. They're doing their mock drafts right now as I say this. It's Saturday morning. They might be doing it on a Saturday morning, come to think of it. If he's the best player there, he's the best player there. You're going to have to take him. Fans are going to be happy. But it takes two to make a trade. But my thought would be he's a good, solid player. He's better than a good, solid player. I don't think he gets the terms of Ed Reed and Sean Taylor and all these other ones because I think it was Brian Baldinger who said it to us, and I thought it was it was an outstanding quote when he had said, and this was on the show a couple weeks ago, when he had said, like, hey man, you got Igmanosin back there, you got McDonald on the defensive line, you got Arvell Reese right there, you got Sonny Styles there. He's a playmaker. How many chances is he gonna get to make plays on that defense?
Right.
That defense is great. Like, honestly, if he played for Purdue, he'd be all over. I mean, all this tape would be all over the place. But because he plays for Ohio State, you got guys who can make plays on either side of him and in front of him. So he doesn't get a chance to make the type of plays that makes people lose their minds when they're watching defense. So that's something we have to take into account. So he's discounted because of that. I don't think that safety or guard should scare you because of what this year is. This year is a little bit low on the top end talent. We've been talking about it all. So safety guard shouldn't scare you. But I do think, to answer the question twice over, just because I love to talk about football, I do think that if Caleb is there, yeah, they're gonna wait for the phone to ring, or they're gonna start calling people up and go, okay, who do you want? You called me an hour ago, and you were thinking about Can you give me this in the 7th? Can we give you this in the 6th? This, that, and the other. Let's make a deal. Let's put this together and see if we can get to move down to 8, 10, 12, somewhere in there. I think that they'll probably try to do that.
Okay. Makes sense.
Because they like Ronnie Hickman a lot, man. They do. He's obviously he's not Grant, but he's a solid enough player. And because of that defense, I think that they can get another good year out of him and see where it goes.
Yeah. Definitely.
So there you go.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, Ken.
I've had a blast, man. I've had a blast. I didn't mean to Charles. We always make jokes with Charles because it's like you only get a chance to ask Charles Davis 2 questions when he comes on the show. I didn't mean to Charles Davis, you guys, but I mean, you guys got to the meat of the matter, and I like answering those questions, so I got excited.
Well, we love talking to you, Ken, and love talking Browns. So it's been a pleasure.
Can I say, honestly, I appreciate your patience. I know that my emails get swamped with all the other stuff because you got the team in Columbus, the UFL team, and I get like 8 emails a day, and so I'm going click, and I'm like, oh, there's a listener email. Okay, let me try. And so sometimes they get buried, and I'm glad. Thank you very much for your patience. I'm glad we can put some together, guys. Really,
yeah, absolutely.
Always a pleasure, Ken.
Yeah,
thank you
definitely.
guys very much.
We appreciate you.
Take care of yourselves.
All right, you do the same. Bye. Thanks to Ken Carmen. Everybody check him out, of course, on 92.3 The Fan and on Fox 8 News. You can find Ken a lot of places. He's obviously, like Jeff said, he's a hardworking guy, and we appreciate Ken. So
yep.
So Jeff, thoughts on? We got through all our questions.
Yeah.
thoughts on anything in particular that we talked about with Ken?
Yeah, on the Caleb Downs question and the draft, the top part of the draft. I was thinking a lot about how we evaluate those picks, and there seems to be this headbutting going on about talent versus need, right?
Yeah.
Do we draft the most talented guy? Do we draft the guy we need the most? Or is there some compromise between the two or whatever? And what really weighs into a team's decision to take a player at a particular spot? So I came up with something that I think might help, and it's I'm going to call it expected contribution. And I don't want anybody to call me the A word, not that A word. The analytic.
Just a second. You got a second?
Yeah.
Hold on. All right.
All right, we got to put the banner up. Yeah.
The banner up. Okay.
All right. So expected contribution. What goes into expected contribution for a player? And this is really driven by analytics, and analytics will help us to understand this, right? But it's the development timeline for a player relative to his age. And, we know there are quote unquote age guardrails that Andrew Berry likes to use to help with analyzing players, right? So are we looking at a guy who's going to be ready to play year one? Are we looking at a guy who's maybe going to take 2 or 3 or longer years to develop, or who may never develop? Is he 20 years old? Is he 24 years old? I mean, with everything going on in college football now, we're seeing a lot more older players coming out in the draft. I'm looking at some of these guys. Ted Hurst is 25 years old. I mean, he's one of the oldest guys in the draft, right?
Yeah. So
that plays into expected contribution. Positional value is part of it. Ken was talking about safeties and guards, right? Not necessarily being viewed as high picks. What's the cap cost and potential contract length? How long can you control the cost for that player relative to the position that he plays? And what's the potential injury history of that player, and how does that relate to what his snap counts can look like going forward, right? So all of that, in my mind, plays into getting the most value out of a draft pick. And when you're talking about the 6th pick in the draft, you need to be hitting a home run in almost all of those areas, right? You can't say, well, I'm going to take a guy because I like him even though he's 25 years old. That just doesn't fit in that spot. I also can't take a guy who, and this ties into my question to Ken earlier about where can they fit on the roster, that is going to be a backup. We can't take a guy who's going to be behind Myles Garrett for the next 5 years, right?
Right.
So right. I think positional value, the player's talent, the team's need at a particular position, it all has to be balanced against what kind of contribution you can expect reasonably to get from that player. And do you have spots to plug them into the roster? Right now, in my mind, the only place we have a spot to plug in a rookie is at wide receiver. I think we've got a spot on the line for sure that can get to that point, probably at some point this year. Ken agrees that, we're not going to draft an offensive lineman and plug him in right away this year. I don't see it happening. And if you look at the rest of the roster, we're pretty well set at starter. It's going to be hard for a rookie draft pick to beat out the guys that we have, right? So when it comes to replicating last year's draft, it's going to be a tall ticket to get 4 guys to give us as much contribution as we got in 2025.
I would agree. I also think there's something else that goes into it, and not necessarily affecting what you're talking about as far as the contribution, but the draft, and that goes back to the expectations on the GM and the coach, and how they attack the draft, and how much they're trying to protect themselves and make sure they have a job the next year too.
Right. Yeah.
So that's going to make them slide more toward drafting for need versus drafting for talent and a guy who.
My scenario is based on a competent organization that isn't looking over their shoulder constantly.
Yeah, and that's something important to consider.
Right. It is.
I think a good organization is going to be more likely to take the best guy, even if it's not the highest need.
Right.
Talking about, the whole Caleb Downs situation, the Browns, no matter how you feel about safety or anything, Ken made some great points there. But, if your coach and your GM are confident that Caleb Downs is going to be a great player, and that you're not that worried about your job this year, then you're going to be more confident in taking Caleb Downs. Otherwise, you're going to say, man, I got to take a receiver. This team really needs a receiver. And you're going to be more likely to say, well, Tate's gone, but we feel like Mekhi Lemon's the next guy on our thing. This is a little bit of a reach, but we can't find a trade partner. We're just going to take Lemon at 6.
Yeah.
And some people would
where
be
you
really
get into
picked up
reaches
about that.
Mm-hmm.
It might turn out to be a good pick, but other people would be like, why did you pass on Caleb Downs? Why didn't you trade? And that scenario could play out with a bunch of other guys, defensive, some of the other defensive players could fall down the board like that too.
Yeah. So here's an interesting exercise that I did, Rod, that might illustrate what you just talked about. And I went back and looked through past drafts to try to find a draft where we had really similar draft capital to what we have in 2026.
Okay.
And I mean, it's not a lot different than what we had last year. It's fairly close, right? On balance, it's pretty close, but I found a draft that we had really, really similar capital. This year we have 6, 24, 39, and 70. The 2014 draft, we had 8, 22, 35, and 71. So 6, 24, 39, 70, 8, 22, 35, and 71. Really close.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe this was Sashi Brown's last draft, if memory serves me.
Wait, we had 8? Is that
8, 20,
that draft didn't go so well, did it?
Yeah, you're getting ahead of me, right? 8, 22, it's 35 and 70. So the 2014 draft with the number 8 pick, the Browns took Justin Gilbert. And hindsight being 2020, right? That was a terrible pick. But what people don't remember is that Justin Gilbert was generally considered to be a top 10 pick that year. I mean, he was a big cornerback with blazing speed. He was sub 4.4, right? So everybody thought this was a can't miss guy.
The idea of the pick was good.
Yeah, right. So you take Justin Gilbert, and then you find out that he's just never going to really contribute, right? 22 is where we got into panic mode. I mean, you could make a case that 8 was really not a terrible pick for most GMs. Okay, 22 is where we got into panic mode. We said, okay, we need a quarterback. We like the kid that has all the moxie, so we're going to draft Johnny Manziel with the 22nd pick, which was one of the worst picks that this organization's ever made, and that's hard to say knowing that you just drafted Justin Gilbert with the pick before.
Which might be one of the it might even be what probably was worse. Yeah, it was.
Right. Okay. So then with the 35th pick, excuse me, their second round pick, they took Joel Bitonio. Was that a little bit of a reach taking a guard high in the second round? Well, maybe. But look what you got in terms of expected contribution. Okay. An all-pro fringe Hall of Fame guard, okay, with the 35th 35th pick in the draft. And then at 71, the Browns took Christian Kirksey, linebacker, who had a nice career here.
He did. He did. He was a big contributor for a long time.
Overall, played, he played well for us, but he had a good NFL career. And really what you would expect from a third-round pick, right?
Right.
So, I mean, he was a fan favorite and really anchored the defense for a number of years. So, terrible at the top, really good in the second round, pretty good in the third round. Okay. Those kinds of drafts get GMs fired, right? I took that one step further.
A guy who is, like you said, borderline Hall of Fame, and it's considered a terrible draft.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I took that one step further, and I thought, just for fun, could we have a similar draft this year? And who would we take with those same picks? Okay. So with the 6th pick, there's really no comp to Justin Gilbert in this year's draft. There's just not a guy with that size and speed combination. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I thought, okay, well, let's look for a cornerback who has at least a chance, and I don't want to kibosh anybody, right? But at least a chance of being as big a disappointment as Justin Gilbert, right? And I came up with Jermod McCoy because he's coming off an ACL injury, and nobody really knows where to put him.
Yeah, more of a wild card. Yeah,
but you could conceivably draft him high because his upside is really great. His floor is also pretty bad. Okay, so you could take Jermod McCoy and he could turn out to be a good player for you, but he could also turn out to be Justin Gilbert, right? So then with the 24th pick, I think the comp is obvious, right?
Yeah.
You took Johnny Manziel in that draft. Let's take Ty Simpson at 24.
Which a lot of people are talking about. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, he doesn't elevate our quarterback room. He gives us another question. He doesn't come in and solve anything anytime soon. But we're desperate for a quarterback, right? So he's the number 2 quarterback. Let's plug him in at 24. First pick in the second round, number 39. I was looking for a Joel Bitonio comp, and I mean this is a guy I actually really like at guard, and that's Emmanuel Pregnon. Built like Superman. I mean, could be an outstanding player in the NFL. If he drops to 39, I wouldn't argue with them taking him there, right? And could end up being the best player that we take in this year's draft if he's there, right? And then at 70, I was looking for a linebacker to comp to Christian Kirksey, and another guy I really like, Josiah Trotter. I mean, if you plugged him into our linebacker room right now, he'd be the 3rd best linebacker, and he'd probably play a lot. And maybe he steps in a couple of years when Quincy Williams moves on, right? So there you go. That could be the 2024 draft redux for the Browns in 2026 or 2014.
I don't think anybody putting that one out, Jeff.
Yeah, that's probably not going to be a real popular mock.
But very, very interesting, just how closely those picks align.
Yeah, and I think that would also get Andrew Gray fired, by the way.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, there are some of those of us who really don't want any part of the Ty Simpson talk, just for the reasons you mentioned.
Yeah.
The funny thing is, if we've talked over the years, everybody knows about the 22nd pick. I think if we had 22 instead of 24, do you think anybody would be talking about drafting Ty Simpson at 22? Anybody? Does anybody want to take a quarterback at 22?
Yeah, no, they'd be avoiding ladders and black cats.
I think probably not. So anyway, yeah.
So yeah, that was fun.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's give any closing thoughts before we get on with our weekend, Jeff?
Oh no, you know what, Rod? It's Saturday morning. I'm tired. I think I'm exhausted. I've gone through all my thought processes now. So.
Yeah, it's a little different doing this in the morning, isn't it?
Yeah. Look, we've got some good stuff coming up relative to the draft. So I got the silliness out of the way today. We'll buckle down over the next few weeks and really start talking about who are good options for us.
Yeah, we got some great guests lined up, guys. Like we try to do every year. So just kind of watch our schedule might get a little funky from time to time. So we'll try to keep everybody posted. But yeah, we're really looking forward to the guys we got coming up. And of course, again, thanks to Ken Carmen. We love talking to Ken. We love Ken, like Jeff said, and can't thank him enough for spending some time with us on a Saturday morning. So it's been great, and we hope you all have a great weekend. This has been the Browns Blitz, and if I get to the right place, I'm going to start that over, guys, because I don't even have my music queued up yet, Jeff. All right, we'll try this again. This has been the Browns Blitz. Thank you